Hi, welcome to the code-dispenser channel. I'm Paul, and for those new to the channel, I've been working with Microsoft Technologies since the mid-1990s and started using C# in 2003. Today I thought we'd build an offline indicator component and associated service for our Blazor WebAssembly projects. The component we are building registers to receive events from the browser window navigator object, allowing JavaScript code to call back into our component when the connection status has changed. Our component, on receipt of the connection status, will then update a property on an associated service. Any other page or component can then use this service to check the network connection status via its public property or opt to register to receive this information via an event. We will also add a couple of parameters to our component to allow for changing the size and colour of our offline icon, as well as parameters for text that screen readers can announce. Let's take a quick look at the finished component. It doesn't look much, but having used similar in production, I found it useful to be able to check for a connection prior to calling Web API or gRPC services, allowing me to provide the appropriate code path.
DevTool filter edit has autocomplete multi-line filter. DevTools is docked to right. List. Disabled grouping. Disabled. No throttling. You are offline. Throttling combo box presets. Offline collapsed. Expanded. List. Presets grouping. You are online. Throttling combo box disabled. No throttling collapsed. Home document. Welcome to your new app. Clickable navigation landmark counter visited link. Main landmark counter heading level 1. You are offline. Click me button. Current count 1. DevTools document. Network panel property page. List. Disabled grouping. Counter document. Button click me.
For our component, we'll be using the Blazor web app project template, selecting the interactive render mode of WebAssembly with the location of global. Although we could simply create the component in the client project, we will create a separate project so we know how to do both. Let's add a Razor class library project to our solution for the component. We will be making use of the JS runtime class, but do not need lazy initialization, so we will just delete the sample files. Let's add folders to the web root folder to hold our JavaScript assets. As we'll be using TypeScript, despite only needing a few lines of code, we will add folders for any scripts. We are mainly doing this so we know how to configure our projects to use TypeScript, allowing us to choose the most appropriate option for our projects. Now that's done, let's add a new component named Offline Indicator to our project. We will use a div and inline style to control the look of an SVG icon. As mentioned, later we will add the appropriate component parameters to control this behavior. I sourced the SVG icon from a website called Iconify, which I will just paste into our div. I altered the width and height to be 100%, so it now just sizes to fit the div. I have also set the colour to be current colour, so it uses the div's colour setting. We need to add project references from both the hosting service and client projects to our component project. We can do this simply via drag and drop and let Visual Studio create these for us. Our component should be placed on an area of the site that is fixed and doesn't change on each page request, such as a header. For our test, we will just place the component next to the About text, which is a fixed area of the default Blazor template. Let's ensure our project builds, runs and displays our component next to the About text. We will add the Microsoft TypeScript MS Build NuGet package for compiling our TypeScript into JavaScript. Sometimes when you add new TypeScript files to your project, Visual Studio will prompt you to install this, but I have found this behaviour to be a little bit hit and miss, so we will just add it now. We need to add a couple of files, a TypeScript file for our code and a configuration file for the TypeScript options. You can also manage these TypeScript options from the Project Properties dialog. Let's update the config file and set the location of the output directory and location of the TypeScript files. In our TypeScript file, we will add a variable to determine if we have already registered to receive events. We are creating a module, and modules act like singletons. Next, we will create the function with parameters to receive the serializable reference to our component and the name of the function used for the callback. We will have this function return the current state of the connection, as well as to add the appropriate event listeners to be able to call our component when the navigator object reports that its connection status has changed. Now that's done, let's add the code to our component in order to register for the navigator change events and the function that JavaScript will use for the callback. We need to add a using statement for JSInterop to use the IJS runtime. We use this to import the JavaScript module that we created. Please note, as this component is intended for WebAssembly use, I opted to use the IJS in-process object reference in the JS runtime invoke async call. If you want the component for server and WebAssembly, then you should use the IJS object reference instead. In order for JavaScript to reach our callback method, we need to decorate it with the JS invocable attribute. I have just noticed that our TypeScript file starts with a capital O. Let's change it to a lowercase to match the path and the JavaScript world's conventions. Now let's check to ensure it all works as expected. It appears we have not done something correctly. Let's see if the console can help. It says invoke method async is not a function. It is a function. However, it should be a lowercase I. Maybe at some point all the programming languages will agree on the same casing rules. Let's go fix it. As our breakpoint is now hit, it looks like everything is working okay now. Let's add the code for our component parameters. We need the parameters for the screen reader text and to control the size and colour of the SVG icon. As we only need a small amount of CSS for the screen reader only class, we will just use the isolated method and add the nested CSS file. We will also need to provide the path to the auto-generated bundle.scp.css file that Blazor uses for the scoped CSS rules. Let's run the application.
DevTool filter edit has autocomplete multi-line filter. DevTools is docked to right. List. Disabled grouping. Throttling combo box presets. Offline collapsed. Internet connection offline. Expanded. List. Internet connection online. Presets grouping. Throttling combo box disabled. No throttling collapsed. Blazor builds Microsoft Visual Studio window. Tab control.
The CSS rule and ARIA text all appeared to work fine. We now just need to add the service that other components can use to obtain the status of the network connection. Let's add a folder for our service and move our component into it. We are doing this as they are coupled. We will also need to update our using statements. The service only needs a few lines of code in order to declare an event using action of bool. We are simply using this to negate creating event arg classes. We will make the event fire and forget, so we will not have to worry about any code in the event handlers blocking other event handlers or any exceptions, as they too will just get squashed. Let's finish off our component by adding the code to use the injected service, updating the isOnline property every time we are notified of a change from JavaScript. We need to add the service to the client's dependency injection container, and then we're good to go. Were you expecting this? The error says that we have not registered our service, but we have just done that. Maybe we need to rebuild the solution or restart Visual Studio. Let me save you some time. The error is correct. We have not registered our service. For the astute, the WebAssembly template, like all of the new templates, have pre-render on by default. So when the component was pre-rendered on the server tried to supply it with the requested service, which it did not have. Let's disable global pre-rendering and see what happens. It now works fine. Let's re-enable pre-rendering and add the service to the hosting server. Having the service on the server will ensure it works with or without pre-render. We are almost done. We just need to add some code to another component to use the service. We will add additional code to the counter page to use both the service's isOnline property and its event. That's it, we're done. Let's see if it all works.
DevTool filter edit has autocomplete multi-line filter. DevTools is docked to right. List. Disabled grouping. Disabled. No throttling. You are offline. Throttling combo box presets. Offline collapsed. Expanded. List. Presets grouping. You are online. Throttling combo box disabled. No throttling collapsed. Home document. Welcome to your new app. Clickable navigation landmark counter visited link. Main landmark counter heading level 1. You are offline. Click me button. Current count 1. DevTools document. Network panel property page. List. Disabled grouping. Counter document. Button click me.
Just to try and impress on you the nuances of pre-rendering, let's right click on the counter navigation menu item and open it in a new window, effectively creating another instance of the application starting on the counter page. You will notice that the red warning text appears and then disappears. This is due to the online property in the service defaulting to false in combination with pre-rendering using this value. In this instance we can simply fix it by setting the property to true, which I have added in the source code, as we would not be able to pre-render on the server without a connection. Well, that's it for another Blazor video. Any comments, good or bad, are welcomed. If you found this video and associated code helpful, please consider buying me a coffee to spur me on to create the next one. Ko-fi link in the description below. Until next time, bye for now.